You're not going to want to miss this episode of the AI Show. We talk all about LLM evaluations in Azure AI Studio with my friend Mernouche. Make sure you tune in. I didn't push the button. I'm going to push the button now. Why is my... Oh, I pushed the wrong button, Mernouche. I kept pushing the background button. Okay, here it goes. It's going now. Hello and welcome to this episode of the AI Show. We're talking all about LLM evaluations with my friend Mernouche. How you doing, my friend?
Really well. How are you?
Fantastic. Mernouche, you've been on the show a lot, so we're glad to have you back. Today we're talking about evaluations, but before we do, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I'm Mernouche Semeki. I'm a principal PM lead here at Microsoft Cambridge, Boston. And I lead the evaluation area in Azure AI Studio and Azure AI. And I also have been working on responsible AI tools for as long as I remember.
That's amazing. And I've been working with you as long as I can remember as well. So it's a pleasure to have you. So let's start
Yeah.
first by diving into why is evaluating LLM style applications a bit different than regular machine learning stuff?
Great question. So there are a couple of different things that makes them different. Number one is the type of harms that these generative AI models could give rise to. So often with generative AI models, we see that they can generate a lot of fabricated information, or what some people call hallucination. So they can give you stuff that are absolutely not grounded in the data that was available to the application or the context that the user brought when he or she was asking the questions. Another aspect could be just them generating harmful content like violence, sexist, racist, or self-harm related content. And another huge one is them falling for jailbreak or prompt injection attacks, which is when people come and ask a certain question and they put the generative AI in a spot that it could be prone to leaking information or instruction that is given to it, or behave in a certain way that the developers of the application absolutely do not want it to behave that way. And then there's other issues like protected materials getting leaked, or copyright issues and stuff like that. And so also like just low quality responses. That the point of these generative AI applications is hopefully to boost the efficiency of the processes that companies have. So it's important that the answers are relevant. The answers are retrieving the right documents when they're providing information, or they're just like human-like. The fit and flow of the sentences are good. The grammatical correctness of them is a certain quality. And so number one, so to get back to your question, the harms make it very different. And the second aspect is often with traditional machine learning, we see that people bring some what I call ground truths or gold standard data, right? Like they exactly know how the model should behave in their test data, and they bring it, and then they measure mathematically like how much they match that ground truth answer and the produced answer. With generative AI, we see that people don't have ground truths. They have set of questions that maybe their human labelers or previous usage has shown that these are type of questions that are being asked, and they want to look at the generated answer by the application and look at the quality or safety of them. And so necessarily they don't have the perfect answer or ground truth answer. Also, one perfect answer might not even exist. The same thing could be said in 10 different 200 different ways. So these are two different things that makes it like super important to look at it from a new angle.
And that's kind of interesting, right? Because standard machine learning, you can measure data drift, you can maybe model drift not as much, but you still know when the quality is bad. But in this case, you even if you have ground truth, that's still not everything you want to measure or do. So in Azure AI Studio, how do you help us with that? I understand you brought a demo.
Yes. So the demo that I have brought is showing you two things. One, human evaluation. So how you can bring some human labelers and have them look at the answers that are generated is often the first step when you want to do quick testing and get a sense of the quality of your measure. Some people know it as red teaming. You can also bring them and equip them with a lot of sensitive questions that hopefully can help them understand whether your model is protected enough against attacks or generating harmful content and stuff like that. And then the second part is the automated measurements, which is metrics. So how
Right.
to help you with some AI assisted measurements. And I would love to show you a demo in the UI path first.
All right, let's do that.
Today, we're going to demonstrate how we're going to develop a retail chatbot for the Contoso Outdoor Gear retail company that aims to answer our customers' questions about the products, orders, company and store policies, location, etc. Please note that as a data scientist of the Contoso company working on this chatbot, I definitely want to make sure that I understand if this chatbot is vulnerable to causing a variety of harms in production scenarios. For example, I might care about the fact that it might generate ungrounded answers that are not grounded in the actual product catalog or in the information that the customer has provided when asking a question. Or I also care about whether my chatbot is serving simply low quality replies or not. So before showing you the evaluation part, let's look at the Azure AI Studio, which was released at Ignite in November. This is a platform that will provide a streamlined experience for prompting, evaluating, tuning, and operationalizing large language models. So you can see different projects that you could create here. You can browse the model catalog, learn more about the base models that we provide to you, try them, especially the Azure OpenAI models that are exclusively available here. You can also experiment with different AI capabilities. And the wonderful part is you will get access to a variety of different responsible AI tools and guidelines and best practices all in one platform. And you have an SDK code first experience, which I'll show you momentarily in another video. And then you have a UI experience, which is where I'm starting from. So starting from this particular playground, imagine that I want to develop the very first version of my chatbot. And so what I'm going to do is first I need to maybe connect it to a base model. So in this case, I just connected to GPT 3.5 Turbo, and then I ask a question about one of my products, which is trail walker hiking shoes. Maybe let's make it a question. How much is this? And let's see if it knows. So I was expecting this. It has no idea because all I have done is I have started with a base model. It has no idea about my product catalog, right? So the very first thing that I need to do is to add my data, which in this case is my product catalog. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the model that I already have uploaded to Azure AI Cognitive Search, and I'm gonna select this, and hopefully I'll do the mapping, and hopefully by doing this I'll make sure now that my model knows about this data and is in a way grounded in this product data in order to provide information. New chat session started with my new settings. In this case, the new settings was the data that I uploaded, and I would ask the exact same question again. Note that this time it knows what the answer is, and you can even click on the reference and get a sense of where it essentially took it from. And so you can see that it is the part of the product catalog, and then it has the price, and that's how it extracted the information. Now, I already have a starting point, but I want to get a sense for, do I like it? Like, is it good quality? Is it continuing to provide information that are grounded in the product catalog data? And so one of the things that you could do is quick testing via manual evaluation. If you're familiar with the concept of red teaming, which is kind of like stress testing the generative AI applications or any AI application, or honestly any application with humans, kind of like asking tons of different questions, trying to stress test for different aspects. This is the AI, this is the UI that is supposed to help you do that. So if you have a set of human testers and you want to bring them to the platform to ask a bunch of different questions from this AI, this is the place to do it. And either you can input your questions, or in this case, I'm just going to import a small data set that I have from past. So I'm just going to import that one. It has a bunch of questions relevant to this use case. You can see I'll show you a little bit in details as well. You do the mapping. This is the question. I don't have ground truths. It's also optional, so I can just skip it. And all of my questions in this small data set have been added. I just run it. And the idea is I get to experiment and kind of like quick test this generative AI based application without too much of a hassle, just getting a sense for it. And so look how, for example, here I recently bought the Trailmaster X4 tent. It leaked. The customer is unhappy. Obviously, this is unacceptable. I expected a reliable waterproof tent. And so the answer starts talking about the product a little bit more. If experienced rain, it may indicate a manufacturing defect. It talks about the warranty. So if I like it, I give it a thumbs up, and the stats start accumulating here on top. And you can save them. But one thing that this is really good for right now, note that as a human labeler, I take a look at these two questions. What purchases did Sarah Lee make and at what price point? The answer here is the request information is not found. I don't like it. I was expecting an answer. How many Trailmaster X4 tents did John Smith bought again? Has no idea. I will give it a thumbs down, and I continue on my journey. Imagine like some of these things I like or I dislike, so I keep providing feedback, and it gets accumulated here. Now, once you save these results are available to the developer who generated that applications or developed that application, and immediately, say if I'm that person who developed this application, when I get the human labeling back, I realize that, oh, I see a theme in whenever the person has provided a thumbs down, which is whenever there is customer info or something asked about customers, my application, my generative AI application has no idea. And so this is a really good guidance for me to go back to my application. And once I do that, I can essentially open this particular application in PromptFlow, which is one of the subcategories of this Azure AI Studio. It's essentially a product that allows you to look at the building blocks of your application, exactly what calls are being made to generative AI and what meta prompts are going into it and what data is available to it. So you can see the kind of like the graph-like building blocks of the application. You can create brand new applications, you can modify previous applications, and this is precisely what I'm going to do. I see the building blocks of my application. I see that the input or the question comes, the intent is determined or extracted from that question. According to that intent, which might be about a certain product or certain policy or certain customer, documents are retrieved. Now, take a look at this retrieval of documents and note that it is using the product info, which is exactly what I passed to it in the product in the playground. And then once the relevant document is retrieved, that is formatted, and then the reply is determined. Again, something that I want you to note here is, here you had a very simple question. In fact, I didn't modify the default system prompt, which was you're an AI assistant that helps find information. But look how much more we're adding for you here in terms of helping you develop a really, really responsible and high quality system prompt. All of the messaging that you see on top, we have added for you under the hood. So it has information about how to tell the model that you're not supposed to repeat import statements, code blocks, or sentences. Your response should be formatted using Markdown. So like it's a lot about the formatting of the answers, but it's also a lot about safety. So how to make sure that you're not providing anything confidential. You're prone to kind of like, as much as, at least these system prompts help, you're not falling for jailbreak attempts or prompt injection attacks. How to make sure that you're always using or understanding the user query, conversation history, and then take the relevant documents out, and a lot more. Also, like there are parts about how to be polite and how to always be positive when providing an answer and be helpful, how to make sure that you always cite documents, and if you cannot find a document to back that answer, you're not providing those answers. And so these are all the best practices that we have determined internally, and we have added for you to your meta prompt under the hood. Now, I know that something is off, so I go ahead and I clone my application. And what I'm doing here in this multi-data source flow, this is exactly the same flow. Note that it determines the intent and extracts it. And the only change here is I have added another node, which besides retrieving product catalog, it is now also retrieving customer information. And that's my hope as a developer of this generative AI based application, that now that I have added both data sources, obviously product info was already there, now customer info is added too, then it is going to hopefully operate better under test situation, and it is able to answer not just product questions but also customer questions. But I need to evaluate it, and that's where I go to this evaluate button. Now, when it comes to evaluation, you can bring your own custom metrics, but we're also providing you with a set of metrics that we call built-in metrics. Many of them are AI assisted, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But let me call this AIShow evaluation RAG scenario. Here I choose the type of the scenario that I have, which is question answering pairs with retrieval augmented generation, which is exactly what I'm doing. I'm using the product catalog and customer catalog to provide answers. The flow is already pre-selected for me. Here are the example of 3 of the built-in measurements that we have. The way that they work is you're connecting them to a base model. Say in this case I use GPT-4, and under the hood, we are providing instructions then to say GPT-4 as how to go and look at your generated answer and measure to what extent it is grounded in the product catalog, customer catalog, or any other information available to the model or information that the user provided in their question. Similarly, relevance is another AI-assisted measurement where AI is tasked with looking at the answer and decide whether the points that are mentioned in the answer are relevant to the question. And retrieval score is really stress testing for the quality of those retrieved documents in order to provide that answer. And thinking about it, retrieval score is about whether the information or whether the retrieved documents are relevant to the question that is being asked by the user. So these 3 metrics I choose. I go next. I use a dataset that I already have. Let me load that. And here you should do a little mapping. So where is your question coming from? The answer is the output of the flow that I just showed you. And in the flow, there were also a part where it was obviously fetching documents for providing you with an answer. So I do that mapping here too. I do a review to make sure everything looks good, and I submit. Now, because it's going to take a moment, I already have an evaluation that I have ran for you. And so you're now under the evaluation tab. I clicked on my specific evaluation. What you're seeing is the average groundedness. Note that it is a score 1 to 5, 5 being the most grounded, meaning less, almost like 5 being 0 hallucination, 1 being a lot of hallucination happening. Relevance 1 to 5, retrieval score is 1 to 5. In all 3 of them, the higher the better. And so not only you can see the average across all the instances of your data set, but you could also see the distribution of how you got the scores. This is really good when you want to compare, because sometimes averages are the same across 2 different applications, but then when you look at the distribution, you see more useful patterns. But not just that, you can also take a look at individual answers. So you can look at the question, answer, and the scoring for each one of them, and what document even you can take a look at the fact that what document was retrieved in order to answer that question. But another cool thing about this UI is not only can you do dive deep into one particular evaluation, But now I also generated the evaluation on the original playground app that I had, which was only using product info, and I can compare them. And this is what it's going to look like. You can see that when I added customer info, which multiple data sources is referring to, now I have both customer info and product info, all of my scores on average improved. But let's look at the example that kind of like prompted me to add customer info. What purchases did Sarah Lee make, and at what price point? Here, there is nothing, pretty much. Like, it had no idea, but now it exactly knows how was the purchase history, or what was the purchase history of Sarah. And another example would be the other one that we saw together: how many Trail Master Expertise did this person bought. And again, similarly, in this example, it had, oops, sorry, it had no idea. And in this example, so it says it has no idea, and then here it exactly knows that he purchased 2 Trailmaster X410. So this is useful in that sense that you can not just dive deep into one evaluation, but you can keep improving your application and in a way look at it comparatively across all these different versions that might be from different meta prompts that you have, or different data that you have brought to your application, or it might be that you just have played with different safety settings and stuff like that. But you can compare and choose which one is the best for you. And whenever you like one, you can always go back to your particular application that you like and go ahead and deploy it. And similarly, you can keep monitoring for these metrics in production in order to see whether they continue to be grounded or relevant, or score a high retrieval score when they're having real world conversations with your users.
This was awesome. So if I'm looking at it correctly, in Azure AI Studio, you're able to start in a playground. You're able to ground your data in ground the playground in some of your data, which was awesome. And then the part that I haven't played with yet, and this was new to me, is that you're able to go in there and actually play with some of the data in the UI. Can you tell us a little bit more about that part? Because that's the part that I've never played with. And tell me about the sort of the thinking behind that.
Absolutely. So what we realized is, after folks have an application, in a lot of cases, they want to do some quick testing. And for that quick testing, they might bring some colleagues, some other stakeholders, some human labelers who know about the domain of expertise of this application that the company is developing, and could ask a variety of different questions. Some of them might be focused on testing for whether the questions are getting the right information from the model. Some of them might be whether it falls for jailbreak attempts or prompt injection attacks. Some of them might be whether we can ask the questions that makes the model answer something hateful, harmful, etc. And so the part that I showcased to you was actually stress testing for whether it could take information, or it could be grounded, it could stay grounded to that data that is available. And that's where the person realized that, whenever there's a question about customer history, there is no answer. And why is it good? Because it is much cheaper than automated evaluations. As I said, a lot of evaluations that we have are AI assisted.
Right.
And if you want to move to scale, they're fantastic. But for some easy considerations, for some things that you can maybe like understand and realize first attempt with some humans in the loop, that's always beneficial to fix it that way, to first bring humans, do manual evaluation, fix some stuff and improve your application, and then move to more at scale automatic evaluation to make sure that everything looks good before you put it in production.
It's like the sniff test beforehand. You always got to do this. You
Exactly.
got to do the sniff test.
Yeah.
And then what was cool is that you took a journey into prompt flow where you started to add more succinct information, and then you were able to do the automated test. So is that generally the journey you're seeing people go through?
Um, In a lot of cases, yes. So they want to start quick, and Playground is that quick way of add your data and ask some questions. And it had, as you saw, actual playground in it,
Right.
hence the name, where you could experiment, like putting some questions in it and answers. But then whatever you want to do with like more sophisticated customization of your application, then we see a lot of people export to PromptFlow. And also a lot of folks, they just start from PromptFlow. So
Right.
PromptFlow itself, it has a lot of good templates for question answering and conversation and other tasks that you could also start from. And the third path, which is even more popular, is the code first path, because AI Studio was developed with developers as the main persona in mind. So the SDK path is also obviously a super popular path.
Which brings me to the next question, because it was all UI based, and I love a good UI, but I love starting in code. Do you have something to show us with a code first approach?
Yes, let's go to that demo together.
All right.
In order to use the Azure AI Studio SDK, which allows you to develop your application via the code first experience and then evaluate it accordingly with the same method as well, we're providing you with a GitHub repo. Which has a lot of simplified command line tools that you could use in order to run your application, evaluate your application. And so we're going to put that in your hands to go through that and explore. But quickly showing you here, I do have a folder under source, which is Copilot AI SDK. So if I click on the system message, this will look a little familiar to you. That's similar, a little bit similar to what we used in the system prompt in the playground. Now we can put any system prompt, which in this case is the instruction to the chatbot we're building for the Contoso outdoor gear. You're an AI assistant helping users with queries related to outdoor camping and etc. And use the following pieces of context, and so it has a little bit of information. And then this chat.py essentially gets that Jinja file, which is the system prompt or meta prompt, and then passes it to the base model of choice, and it essentially builds that chat application here. And so when I go back to the README, you'll see that you can essentially clone this repo and you can install all the requirements, and then you're going to be able to copy the product info and also customer catalog. I'm not showing that here, but customer product catalog into the AI search in order and index it, and that will be essentially the data that your chatbot will use in order to ground itself and ground its answer in. And once you do that, you can run this Copilot application that you just built, either with simple question or different ways or interactively. And there's a very simple way that you could evaluate it. So in this particular case, just doing the running it, and let me show you the run.py as well. If I close this, here in the run.py, you'll find a part of the application that is related to the evaluation. We are using a simple Python function here, and inside this, we're using the AI Studio's evaluate function, which allows you to specify a name, the task type, which could be just a simple question and answer, or it could be a chat payload, which is a more complicated format, but you have access to that too. Question, context, answer, truth, everything that you have, you need to do the mapping here. And you also need to specify what metrics you want. Now, in my UI demo, I showed you that I selected groundedness and retrieval score and relevance. Here I do other metrics like exact match, which is a mathematical based measurement of comparing the ground truth answer only if you have access to, and the generated answer. Grounded is the same, relevance, and coherence is the fit and flow of the sentences and how kind of like human like they are. And once you have that, you submit that evaluation. I already have done that here, and you can see that I can see the GPT coherence, the average of it and the median of it, coherence, groundedness, relevance, and exact match. And I could also take a look at each instance of my test data and see for each one of them what is the evaluation in terms of these measurements that I just passed. And the fun part is all of these evaluations are also visualized for you in AI Studio under the Evaluate tab.
I mean, this is awesome because, and sorry, I wanted to mute myself so I wouldn't overwrite what you were saying. This is cool because everything we showed in the AI Studio, it can be done in code if you want to as well. Is that right?
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. So whatever is comfortable for them.
And I love that because, like I said, whatever you want to do, you can. So we're kind of running out of time. Where can people go to find out more?
So first, there is documentation as how to exactly do the path that I showed you in the UI. So definitely check that out, and that also tells you to takes you to another document for metrics that we support. There's also another one on the SDK experience and the code first experience, including the simulator that helps you generate a lot of data. And then we have also incorporated into our LLMOps lifecycle, so you can learn more about that here as well.
Well, this has been amazing, Marnoush. Thank you so much for being with us, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. And
Thank you. Bye.
thank you so much for watching. We've been learning all about LM evaluations in Azure AI Studio. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Take care.